You're closer than you think. Somehow, in spite of all the troubles I had in school, I managed to get into a local university. I thought being a freshman in college meant a last opportunity to make a fresh start. I dreamed about making my family proud and to showing the world, and more importantly myself, that I have the potential to succeed. I was in a new environment. College professors taught differently than high school teachers. No one at this college had any preconceived notions about me. I worked my butt off. I worked my butt off, but I actually wound up doing even worse in my college classes than high school. A few months into this, I started to face my reality. I couldn't see the point of wasting time and money that I did not have. I was ready to quit school altogether. I told a friend about my plans, and she suggested that before I made a decision, I go with him to visit his family for the weekend. He thought that getting me away from the campus might give me some perspective. When we arrived, his father showed me around their property before dinner. Along the way, he asked how was school going for me. It was the worst question anyone would ask me at the time, and I'm sure my response stunned him. I erupted into tears, not holding back the tears, crying, but straight up bawling. I could see he was taken aback by this, but his innocent question has broken the dam, holding back so many pent-up emotions. I told him the whole boy with a broken brain story while he listened patiently. When I was finished, he looked me directly in the eyes. "Jim, where are you in school?" he said. "What do you want to be with? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What do you want to have? What do you want to share?" I didn't have immediate answers to any of these questions because no one had ever asked me them before. But I felt as though I needed to answer them now. I started to speak, and he stopped me, and he tore a couple of pieces of paper from his pocket diary and told me to write down my answers. "In this book, I'll show you how to ask questions to learn and achieve anything faster." I spent the next several months writing a bucket list. When I was finished, I spent the several minutes writing a bucket list. When I was finished, I began folding up the papers and preparing to put them in my pocket, but as I was doing so, my friend's father grabbed the pages out of my hand. I freaked out because I didn't think what I'd written was going to be read by anyone else, so especially this complete stranger. But he opened the pages and read while I stood in my discomfort. It seemed as though he took hours to read what I'd written, though I'm sure it was only a minute or two. When he finished, he said, "You're this close," holding the index fingers on his right and left hands about a foot apart, getting every single thing on that list. The statement seemed absurd to me. I told him I couldn't crack this list if I had 10 lifetimes. But then he took his fingers and, without expanding the distance between them, placed one each side of my head. This space was describing was my brain. This space he was describing was my brain. That's the key, he said. "Come with me, I have something to show you." We walked back to the house, where he took me to a room that I'd never seen before. It was filled wall to wall, floor to ceiling, with books. Now remember, at that point in my life, I was not a fan of books. It was like being in a room full of snakes. But what made it even worse was that he started grabbing snakes from his shelves and handing it to me. I looked at the titles and realized these were biographies of incredible men and women throughout history, as well as some early personal growth books such as The Magic of Thinking Big, The Power of Positivity, Think and Grow Rich. Jim, I want to read one of these books a week. Jim, I want you to read one of these books a week. My first thought was, have you not been listening to anything I've been saying? I didn't ask this out loud, but I did respond. I don't know how I could do that. Reading doesn't come easily to me. I have so much schoolwork to do. Held up a finger, saying, don't let school interfere with your education. I later learned he was paraphrasing a quote attributed to Mark Twain. Look, they said, I understand how reading these books would be really helpful, but I don't want to make any promises that I can't keep. He paused and then reached into his pocket, pulled out my bucket list, and started reading each one out loud. There was something about hearing my dreams in another person's voice that messed with my head, and I saw something fierce. Truth be told, many of the things in the list were things I wanted to do for my family, things my parents could never afford or would never have done for themselves, even if they could afford them. Hearing this read out loud moved me in a ways I didn't think possible. It deeply tapped me into my drive and purpose. We will unleash our motivation together in part 3. When he was finished, I told him I would do exactly what he suggested, though secretly I had no idea I was going to accomplish that. Asking the right question, I went back to school after the weekend, armed with books equally. On my desk were now 2 files, one that I had to read for school and the one that I promised to read. The scale of what I'd agreed to read registered with me. How was I going to make a dent in these piles when reading was such a labor for me? I was already struggling to get through the first pile. What was I going to do? Where would I get the time? I didn't eat, I didn't sleep, I didn't exercise, I didn't watch television or spend time with friends. Instead, I practically lived at the library until one night when I passed out from my sheer exhaustion and fell down a flight of stairs studying yet another head injury. It wasn't until 2 days later when I woke up in the hospital, I thought I had died, and maybe a part of me wished I had. I was truly at a low point in my life. I was wasting away. My weight was down to 117 pounds, and I was so dehydrated that I was hooked up to IV bags. As miserable as I was, I said to myself, there has to be a better way. At that moment, a nurse came into my room carrying a mug of tea with a picture of Einstein on it, the very same subject of the book report that inspired me to dig deep and study back in the grade school. The code next to his image said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. Ano ba yan? Aray! Ano to? Ay, wag na to. Wag to. Hindi pwede to. That's when it dawned on me, maybe I was asking the wrong question. I started to wonder what was my problem. I knew I was a slow learner, but I had been thinking the same way about it for years. I realized that I was trying to solve my learning problems by thinking the way I had been taught to think, just to work harder. But what if I could teach myself a better method to learn? What if I could learn in a way that was more efficient, effective, and even enjoyable? What if I could learn how to learn faster? I committed in that very moment to finding that way, and with that commitment, my mind began to shift. I asked the nurse for a course bulletin and flipped through it page by page. After a couple hundred pages, I could find nothing but classes on what to learn Spanish, history, math, science, but there were no classes teaching students how to learn.